This is Grace Notes. I'm Alan Button, and our guest today is Crissy Oravits. Crissy, who goes by Crissy O, right?
Yeah, it's just easier to say.
Uh-huh. Let me say a few words, Crissy, about what we know about you, and then, if you would, I'll have you elaborate a little bit. Crissy is on the development board in the city of Wilson. She, in terms of background, has done nursing for a lot of years. She is the mother of 3 sons, the wife of a retired state trooper who is now a deputy sheriff in Johnston County. And a huge part of Crissy's life is music and how she has used that for her work with special needs kids. Crissy, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
If we could, Crissy, let's start with your telling us a little bit more about your background, where you're from and how you got to be where you are.
Well, I am a Johnston County girl. You can tell by my accent. Good old North Carolina, right outside of Kenley. So I grew up in a musical family. My grandmother actually started a family gospel group called the New Jerusalem Way Singers, believe it or not. So at the age of 3, I was on stage. I was singing. I was touring with my family. And from that, I went on to play. At 4 years old, she started me on piano. 7 years old, I got my very first drum set. And at 9 years old, I got my very first guitar. So the list keeps going on with musical instruments. So we toured the East Coast and we sang Southern gospel music. And it was just wonderful memories doing that. I just enjoyed every minute.
I think you told me before we came into the studio that your grandmother was the first queen of the Gospel Music Association. Did I get that right?
Yeah, she was the first queen of the East Coast Gospel Music Association. And I believe that was back in 1987. And that was a shock to everybody because who knew? There were so many other people that were listed to be queen, but she won and we were surprised.
You told me, too, that your uncles were involved.
Oh, yes. My uncles, Ken and John, I always called Ken Pop because that's just what we called him. He played bass, and Uncle John played several instruments. He played the steel guitar, he played the fiddle, he played the banjo, he played the dobro, and the mandolins. He was literally a one-man band. My mom played piano, I played the drums.
You and Karen Carpenter, huh?
Well, I did love Karen Carpenter a lot, and I listened to a lot of her music when I was a kid on my little record player with the little 45 albums that not very many people know about. But yeah, that's what we did.
Well, how is it that your family got to be so involved with music?
Well, my grandmother had actually started out as a young girl. She could play acoustic guitar, and she would entertain her family, and she would sing. So ministry was a big part of their lives. We're from the Free Will Baptist group, and there was a lot of ministers in the family, evangelists, that sort of thing, and she just felt like she was led to start a family group, to be in music, and when she started having children, she taught them how to sing. They all learned how to play an instrument, and she just went on from there, and we just carried it on.
I see. So it really was family ministry.
Yeah, it was. It was. We never got paid a dime for it, and we, traveled all over to places and some interesting places, but we went. And she always said that the good Lord blessed her in music to be able to minister to others and to help whoever she could. And that's what she did.
And somehow along the way you fit school in.
I did. Back then when I went to school in high school, you could have an agreement due to religious things or other, whatever it was. You would have a little piece of paper signed by your family that you could miss a certain amount of days or whatever. So I loved it because I was gone. I didn't have to sit in the classroom with everybody else. So I typically went to school Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. And Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays and Sundays, we were on the road traveling. That's all I cared to do. Could have cared less about school. But, you had to go a certain amount of days.
And at some point after high school, you pursued
college.
A couple of different programs, as I understand it.
I did, out of necessity. When the family got where, obviously, you have aunts and uncles and everybody, and they're older, and, they kind of don't want to tour anymore because it gets tiring, dragging, heavy equipment. One speaker weighs like 300 pounds. Nobody wants to do that. So I found time to fit in college and still work and play music as a free contract musician.
You've identified a song for us that takes us back, I think, to where you got started, being where we started the program, being a Johnston County native. We can tell by your accent,
yes.
You say. The song, Carolina Girls.
We're the best in the world. Just no need to expand on that. It's self-explanatory.
Speaks for itself.
It does. We're pretty awesome.
If you do say so yourself.
That's right.
When did you first hear this song?
Oh, I was a little girl. There's a lot of music, obviously, growing up in the family, and my grandmother always listened to the radio. We listened to 45 records and LPs, and I think this was one of the 45 records that we literally wore out. Uh-huh. And I can remember her. She was always in the kitchen cooking and frying cornbread or fatback or something, and this was blaring on her little record player. And I learned all the words to it, so I would dance around her, and she was like, "Can't you be still?" No, because it's music. You can't. It's just a good feel-good song, and it just reminds me of being a kid and, being happy to be from North Carolina.
Let's hear the song, Carolina Girls by General Johnson. That was Carolina Girls by General Johnson. If you're just joining us, this is Grace Notes. I'm Alan Button, and our guest today is Crissy Oravits. Crissy, you were saying that at some point after high school you got into other education, and I understand that led into a nursing career of sorts. Tell us how you got into that and why.
Well, it was by necessity. Growing up on the road and traveling with music, that's primarily what I wanted to do. But, it's like with any artistic endeavor, you're either starving or you're not starving.
You had to pay the bills somehow.
Yes, sir, you sure did. So I had got introduced to the medical field by a friend of mine who was a laboratory technician. So I thought, oh yeah, I can do that. It's just literally on a whim. So I went and did the whole phlebotomy program, EKG, and then I actually do like this. So I went into the medical laboratory technician program, and that's what I did first. And then the hospital I worked at had a program that would help you go do the rest of it. So that's what I did. And I went into the nursing field that way. And I actually like it. I didn't like the babies and labor and delivery part, but dealing with kids and adults and geriatrics, I really did enjoy. Just not labor and delivery, wasn't my thing.
It also led, as I understand it, to a husband.
Yes,
is that right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Very interesting story. I met him at the morgue.
You met your husband at the morgue.
Yes, true story. True story. Met him at the morgue. It was very interesting. He got my attention, and that's how all that worked. It makes for good, coffee table talk when you're out and people are looking at you like, you met where? The morgue.
Do you want to say anything about how he got your attention?
Well, we had an unfortunate decedent, there because, patient privacy and all that stuff. And
right.
He toe tagged him with the wrong things, all the wrong things. And which I was like, you can't do that, which led into, hey, do you want to go out to eat? Really? Right here? Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. We'll do that.
So you were setting him straight right from the beginning.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. So the conversation was a little more alive than what we were dealing with at the moment, but that's all rather funny now.
And this was your husband at the point that he was a state trooper.
I was a state trooper at the time, yes.
Tell us about the rest of your family.
Oh, wow.
Your boys in particular?
Yes, my boys. We have 3 little boys. I say little, but,
Not so little anymore.
No, not so little anymore. We have Austin. He's 18, and Colby's 15, and John Avery is 11. So we have 3 beautiful little boys.
And they have something to do with what you do in music.
Yes, they do.
Tell us about that.
When we first had Austin, the whole entire pregnancy with him was just not a very good experience. I was sick. There was a lot of issues. Then we had to have an emergency C-section. And when we had the emergency C-section, we found out that he had been lacking oxygen for quite a very long period of time. He was very blue when he was born, only to find out later that he had brain damage from birth. And later on, as he started aging and he was doing all the little things he should be doing, then all of a sudden he turned a year old and nothing. No speech, no recognition of any kind, no nothing. We had no clue what was going on. And all these battery of tests happened later to find out that he was very autistic. And he had a genetic disorder that they could not really put a name to just yet. And he had a lot of gastrointestinal issues. And he didn't speak at all. I mean, it was just echolalia, jumbled stuff. We used to say, oh, it's the baby Japanese again, because nobody knew what he was saying. So what led us to that was being a musician myself and my sister. I'm like, I got to find a way to get this kid to talk. So the very first song that we taught him, where he was able to sing the entire song, which floored everybody because you could understand every word he said, was You Are My Sunshine. So she would play the acoustic guitar and I would play piano.
Your sister.
My sister, Melanie. And he would zero in on what we were doing, and we would sing the words to him and kind of mouth them a little bit. And we're like, hey, we've got something here. He's able to do this through music. Well, we were already teaching non-special needs people. Why don't we create a program and teach special needs kids and adults through music? So that's how that happened. After that, he started speaking. It was gradual, intensive speech therapies and stuff, but mostly through music and songs is how he did it.
Boy, that says something about the power of music, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It's very therapeutic, and you think about it. They use music in hospitals for people who are terminally ill, for sick babies. And if you listen to your favorite song for like that 3.5 minutes, there's no pain. You don't have to worry about anything. You feel good. It releases all those really good endorphins. So we've come to find that out through our music program, that these kids will tell you, they love to come. Most of them don't like to leave when they get there. But there's a reason why. It's because they feel good. They don't have to worry about being judged by other people. And for once, a stuttering child can come in and sing perfect little songs without stuttering. So it's just very powerful.
When you say your music program, you're talking about the teaching that you do in your studio.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. At we're historic downtown Wilson Musical Moore Studio. We've been doing that now for a long time, a lot of years.
You and your sister got that started.
We did. We did.
I'll tell you what, it sounds to me like it would be appropriate to hear You Are My Sunshine.
Yes, it's an awesome song. We still play it in the studio for kids.
Good. Well, how about the Gene Autry version? Does that work for you?
That sounds great. Any version of that song's perfect.
Good. Let's hear it. You Are My Sunshine by Gene Autry.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. How much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
That was Gene Autry with You Are My Sunshine. And our guest today is Crissy Oravits. Crissy, you were saying as that song was wrapping up something about the power of music.
Yeah, the power of music is very, very strong. I tell people all the time, if you don't understand the power of music, then try to watch a movie or a commercial with no sound bites, no music, nothing in the background. You're not going to sit there very long. So it's very powerful, and sometimes it's the only thing that makes us feel good is music. You
were telling us about your son singing this at church.
when he
Tell
was
us again.
little.
Yeah.
When he was little, all the little kids in Sunday school would get up and they would sing their little traditional, deep and wide, Jesus loves me. And the minute I would start playing that on the piano, because he didn't have any language then, he would sing this entire song all the way through, and everybody's mouths would be dropped open like, wow, we understood everything he said. Oh. It was just a joy. I mean, the lyrics alone is please don't take my sunshine away. So for him and other kids and people in general, music is their sunshine.
You've gotten very involved, as I understand it, in causes related to autism. Tell us about that and your other boys.
Oh, okay. Well, I do a lot of speaking engagements and different churches, different venues, different places for different autism societies all through the state. They know about what we do at the studio and our work that we've done. Primarily me having children with autism. So we do different speaking engagements and get them to understand that music is therapeutic in its own way, but we can also teach and work through special needs children, through engaging them in more cognitive things, through music, through speech and language. It really does a lot to help these kids, and they're pretty excited about it. So it's very helpful. It's very therapeutic.
What are the circumstances of your other boys?
Colby is a genius, my 15-year-old. He's ridiculously smart, and he's my artist, so he's great. He functions very well. My 11-year-old, John Avery, we're still working through some language issues with him, and he also has Tourette's, which nobody in our family has. So we have to learn to get through these little tics and different things that he has through the Tourette's. It's been interesting because I don't know anybody with Tourette's, and he was like, oh, okay, we have to figure this out and work around it. This is all we have to do. But he loves to play ukulele. He loves to sing. It's the only time I noticed that he doesn't have tics or issues with his Tourette's or autism is when he's in the studio with me and he's singing or playing ukulele. There's nothing at all. There's just literally nothing. And I'm like, oh, wow, he's like not moving and having these involuntary, muscle issues. It's amazing to watch.
How have you handled school for your kids?
We do homeschool. Homeschool worked well for us. We do, primarily do things in the morning time, and then
because you have a business to run
I have a business,
too.
So we do that from that till right around lunch, and then lunchtime onward, we go to the studio, and you'll see them a lot with me at the studio working with other groups, non-special needs and special needs, and we get out amongst the community and do what we need to do.
You were telling me before we came into the studio about your sister, and you mentioned your sister
Melanie,
a short time ago, who helped get the studio started.
Yeah, she did. She is 10 years older than me, and she had started the recording studio 28 years or so back. And around 5 years ago, she was diagnosed with 2 rare forms of cancer that affects the blood, very rare. One was more common, people know as polycythemia vera. She had the worst part of that, of the polycythemia family. And then the other one was Janus kinase 2, which they call JAK2, which the form she had caused her to have massive blood clots in all of her major organs and mesenteric venous system. Wonderful, fabulous musician. I mean, she could outplay anybody. Oh. And a lot of people came to her and worked with her. So I learned so much from her. So she was like my teacher as well. So I always tried to emulate her because she was not only my sister, but she was my best friend, and we were business partners and that sort of thing. So I always looked up to her for everything. And in May of last year, May the 22nd, she lost her battle with the cancer, and she was at peace because we sang her out. So when she told us, she said, if something happens to me, you make sure that at my funeral I have it exactly the way I want it, and it's full of music. And we did that. We had a church full of people, and we had the band played, and the choir came. And it was a really great service to honor her. But she's responsible for a lot of us musicians, believe it or not. A lot of people grew up either touring with her or working with her.
I think a lot of people hearing your story would say that you've been through a lot, but you handle it wonderfully well. What is it that
you have to.
What's your perspective? How do you do it?
Well, you either go through life and you have a bad attitude about things, or you have a good attitude about things. As my grandma would say, there's no straddling the fence on this. You're either a yes or you're a no, one of the two. So with everything that the good Lord gives you, He gives them to you for a reason. So you have to have a reason. There's a reason why I have special needs kids. There's a reason why I went into nursing. I like to think it's because He drove me to do that, because He knew I was going to have special needs kids that I was going to have to take care of myself. So I need to have that knowledge. And not only, that, but to work with other people in the community and my neighbors and somewhat, whatever I need to do. But you have to be thankful every day. There's a lot of times, I get up in the morning and I'm like, ooh, oh my goodness, my schedule is crazy. But I still take that time to give thanks, to be thankful for another day to get up, because not everybody can do that. And unless you are in those situations, if you have special needs kids, you don't know what it's like until you're in their shoes. So I'm just thankful for another day. Hey, nobody colored the dog blue with a permanent Sharpie marker, because that's happened. Nobody painted my bathroom with something. I have no clue how they got it. You just have to be jovial and happy in your day. And yeah, we have bad days. Chalk it up to a bad day and move on. There's no special formula for it. You either have it in you or you don't. And I do what I do to have a servant's heart, just like my sister did and my grandmother. So I'm pretty much natured like them, you could say.
You've identified, Crissy, another song that ties together some of the things you've been talking about. Your love has lifted me higher and higher.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Well, if you think about the lyrics, your love keeps lifting me higher, higher than I've ever been before. And you think about that, and you think about all the wonderful things that we have just in life in general. You can breathe, you can eat, you can do things for yourself, you can think for yourself. Not everybody has that. So you have to be thankful for what you got. Because working with special needs kids, having my own special needs kids, some days I think, well, wow, I got the happiest little kids in the world, and they could care less what anybody else in the world thinks about them. Why am I stressed out about what somebody thinks about me? So just them alone, and my husband as well, because when you're a married couple and you got special needs kids, sometimes in life those situations don't work out. But I can say in the 20 years me and my husband have been married, we stick together like glue, and we do everything as a family, and all of it just works together, and we keep pushing each other up higher and higher and higher. And, I don't worry about the rest of it. Day-to-day living is all I worry about.
Before we go to the song, tell us your website address.
Oh, our website is musicandmorestudio.com.
If people want more information about your teaching and the programs you offer, that's the place to go.
That's it.
Again, it's what?
musicandmorestudio.com.
musicandmorestudio.com. Well, Crissy, it's been great to have you here. You're an inspiration. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I've enjoyed myself here. You guys are great to talk to.
Let's hear the song, Higher and Higher, by Rita Coolidge.
Your love is lifting me higher than I've ever before. So keep it quench my desire.
You've been listening to Grace Notes, a special program here on Life 103.1 featuring people who may be relatively unknown, but who meet life's challenges in ways that brighten the lives of those around them. Our producer is Christina Dolan. I'm Alan Button, and we invite you to join all of us here at the station again next Friday at 5:30 for Grace Notes on Life 103.1.